NASA is planning to retire the International Space Station by the next decade. However, reports suggest it could cost nearly $1 billion for them to do so. As per the latest reports, the destruction of the International Space Station, or ISS, is scheduled to be completed by 2031. However, all the options point towards bringing the ISS back to Earth via what NASA calls a deliberate destructive descent. The massive spacecraft initially had a targeted lifespan of 15 years, but has now been in service for 25 years. According to reports, NASA plans to let the International Space Station gradually come down on its own by naturally slowing down in orbit. Once it's about 250 miles above Earth, a specially designed spacecraft would connect to the ISS. This spacecraft would then initiate a controlled burn, causing the space station to lower its orbit to just 125 miles above Earth. Mission controllers would carefully adjust the ISS's circular orbit to create a more elongated, oval-shaped path. The lowest point of this path, where the station gets closest to Earth, would be around 90 miles. When the time is right, mission controllers would use the ISS's rocket for a final boost, pushing it even lower in its orbit until it eventually descends over the South Pacific Ocean. Imagine the ISS as a sort of space vessel slowly sinking in the vastness above us. It's not just a symbol of human scientific achievement, but a massive 450-ton spacecraft affected by gravity up there in low Earth orbit. Even though it has surpassed its planned lifespan, the ISS needs occasional boosts to prevent it from falling too close to Earth. NASA intends to retire the station by the next decade, but saying goodbye won't be cheap. It could cost nearly $1 billion, according to Scientific American. All options involve bringing the ISS back to Earth in a fiery descent, but the most practical idea is to use 3 Russian Progress cargo vehicles to help it fall deliberately and destructively. Another option is to push the ISS into a graveyard orbit, which is a higher orbit where it wouldn't pose a risk. However, this too comes with a hefty price tag, and the aging and massive ISS might still break apart, leaving a substantial amount of space debris behind. Nowadays, NASA is turning its attention to the growing commercial space sector to create the next space station. A company based in Houston called Axiom Space has already secured an agreement allowing it to add a privately constructed module to the ISS by 2024. But that's not all. Axiom has bigger plans.
And so we really feel like we're prepared to go.
They aim to build a whole new station, one that's not only more modern but also more comfortable than the government-built ISS. In a recent move, NASA handed out contracts totaling $415.6 million to different teams. One team, led by Blue Origin and Sierra Space, includes NanoRacks, Voyager Space, and Lockheed Martin, along with Northrop Grumman. Their goal is to develop private space stations. Even though NASA won't own or run these stations, it plans to use them as a customer. This means NASA can keep sending its astronauts into space, even after the ISS is retired. This NASA decision has been well received by some in the space industry. Jeffrey Manber, the president of International Space Stations for Voyager Space, sees it as a significant moment, indicating the end of the ISS era. He believes it sends a clear message to investors and potential customers that they can now collaborate with the commercial space sector, knowing the government is committed to a new era of smaller, more efficient commercial space stations. Not too long ago, the ISS was the main player in space, but now it's about to get some company. In April 2021, China sent out the core part of its fresh space station, known as Tiangong, which translates to Heavenly Palace in Chinese. Picture this: a brand new modular space station entering the scene. There was a lot to be excited about, as China aimed to have Tiangong fully operational by 2022. The plan was for it to be a research spacecraft, orbiting Earth alongside the nearly 25-year-old International Space Station. Back then, NASA and its partners agreed that the aging ISS would keep going until 2024, though what would happen afterward was uncertain. If the International Space Station were to retire in 2024, China's space station would stand alone as the only permanent one in low Earth orbit. This would mean China could have a significant global presence and influence in the world of space. Now let's take a look at what China's new space station has and how it stacks up against the international one. Quentin Parker, who directs the Laboratory for Space Research at the University of Hong Kong and has over 4 decades of space science experience, explains that the main reasons for this isolation are political. Issues of trust and concerns about sharing technology, mainly driven by the United States, have kept China out of the ISS collaboration since 2011. Due to these restrictions, China's astronauts have not been allowed on the ISS, even though it involves 5 space agencies working together. Interestingly, this exclusion has pushed China to take matters into its own hands. Without the opportunity to participate in the ISS, China has found the motivation and political will to pursue ambitious space projects independently. China's dream of having its own space station has been in the works for about 30 years. In 2003, it sent its first astronauts to space, becoming the third country, after the US and Russia, to achieve this feat. Less than a decade later, China claimed success in launching 2 test modules, laying the foundation for its space station design. Building China's space station is a bit like assembling Lego blocks. Unlike putting up the whole thing in one shot, it's done bit by bit using multiple launches. The International Space Station currently has 16 modules, while China's space station, called Tiangong, has just 1 in orbit for now. However, the plan is to eventually have 3 modules. Tiangong is about a quarter of the size of the current ISS and can accommodate 3 people. In comparison, the ISS typically houses 6 people, and in 2009 there was a record total of 13 astronauts on board. China could reach that capacity by adding more modules to its space station. The modular design of the ISS has allowed it to evolve since 1998. If a module fails or becomes outdated, it can be detached and replaced with a new one. Even though Tiangong is smaller, China claims it's equipped with more advanced technology. One notable feature is its solar panel system that generates electricity to keep the lights on and power the spacecraft's propulsion technology. Unlike the ISS, which primarily relies on traditional fuel propellants, Tiangong's propulsion system is more efficient and powerful. China's space agency states that its system is about 5 times more efficient than the ISS's, which consumes about 9 tons of fuel annually to stay in orbit. This efficiency is achieved by using less fuel, making Tiangong a more sustainable and advanced space station. One unique feature that sets China's space station apart from the ISS is a tag-along space telescope named Suntian, meaning heavenly cruiser in Chinese. Unlike the ISS, Suntian orbits parallel to the space station. It's comparable to the Hubble Space Telescope, but with a significantly larger camera capable of capturing up to 300 times the field of view of the Hubble in one shot. What makes Suntian even more interesting is its ability to refuel and be serviced by directly docking at Tiangong, the Chinese space station. In contrast, the Hubble telescope, orbiting on its own, requires astronauts to fly in from Earth for repairs. China envisions collaboration with its space station, and Suntian could be used by other countries in the future. China has expressed its space station is designed for international cooperation, providing legitimacy to its space capabilities and building influence globally. Namrata Goswami, an independent researcher in global space policy, notes that with the completion of the Chinese space station in 2022, countries have a competitive choice in deciding where to launch their experiments. Unlike the ISS, where decisions require consensus among partners, the Chinese space station is operated by China. This means decisions about scientific experiments on the Chinese space station are made by China. When it comes to the living experience inside the Tiangong space station, one noticeable aspect is the abundance of footholds on the floor. Unlike what we're accustomed to seeing on the ISS, where crew members float freely, the Chinese prefer to keep their feet on the floor. Crew members are often strapped in and not floating around aimlessly. Even in group photos, you'll find them standing up straight. For sleeping arrangements, the crew adopts an upright position in a bag within one of the 6 bunk areas. Each person has their own living quarters, with 3 in the core module and 3 more in the Wen-Tian module. While the standard crew count for the station is 3 people, it can expand to 6 during crew handover periods. Life seems quite comfortable for Tiangong crews. They grow fresh lettuce and vegetables on board and receive supplies of fresh fruit, including apples. Notably, Tiangong boasts the first space microwave, a significant achievement as the ISS has never had one due to high power requirements. The space microwave on Tiangong can heat up a meal for 3 crew members in just 7 minutes, designed specifically for low power consumption and durability during launch. Exercise is crucial for maintaining health in space. While ISS crew members must exercise for at least 2 hours every day to preserve muscle and bone density, Tiangong has a special treadmill and cycling station for cardio, similar to what we've seen on the ISS. The Chinese equipment, however, is more compact and seamlessly integrated into the design. In terms of resistance training, the new research module on Tiangong comes equipped with a rowing machine. This differs from the ISS, which uses a larger resistance machine allowing crew members to perform movements similar to squats and deadlifts with up to 600 pounds of resistance. The rowing machine on Tiangong is likely a more efficient way to achieve similar muscle activation in a smaller space. China is making a clear investment in space with the goal of becoming a leading aerospace power. They are focusing on developing their capabilities in low Earth orbit and beyond. However, China won't be the only player as the ISS heads into retirement. NASA is taking the lead in a plan to launch a new outpost that functions like the ISS, but orbits the moon instead. Additionally, Russia has also shown interest in launching its own space station by 2030. The competition in space is tied to determining which country has the most appealing space capabilities in low Earth orbit and beyond. It's all about establishing influence and capacity in the realm of space exploration. Thanks for watching the video, and if you found it informative, please like and subscribe to Blueprint Journeys for similar content. We look forward to sharing more knowledge with you in the future. Until then, take care.